Over the years, I've been a victim of Apple's trend of either giving a device worse performance or giving a device no support past a certain patch. With iOS 10 coming into the picture, will Apple continue this trend? If you own a last generation device, should you upgrade to iOS 10? Unlike the rest of the patches, is there performance loss this time? Is it actually worth the upgrade? Let's find out. Unfortunately, I did not think ahead when installing iOS 10, so I actually pressed the install button before I could get any benchmarks done. But this video isn't really about the marks as much. Anyways, after downloading about a gigabyte of data, then spending 2 hours of my time, it finally installed. First of all, you no longer swipe to the right to unlock. You now have to tap your home button. I'm not sure I like this. At first, I didn't think much of it, just the mindset that Apple was trying to reinvent the wheel. But one of the most annoying things about this feature is that with this update, since the OS is seemingly less responsive, you can find yourself double tapping a couple of times, having the phone not register the second tap, then having to tap again so it actually registers. And don't worry, I'll get into all of the reasons why I think it's seemingly less responsive, well, because it is. I understand that the new devices are basically getting rid of the pressable home button just to minimize the moving parts and ways water can get in, but I find this to be a poor implementation for these older devices. If anything, they should have left the swipe feature, or at least have a toggling option to enable or disable this feature. Maybe they could have just used the old iOS 6 swipe bar, then swiping to the left anywhere could lead to the Widget Center, for instance. But in this current form, you'll find yourself getting annoyed by the home button login. At least I did. Secondly, the Widget Center you used to get with the first tab of the pull-down menu, or by swiping to the left far panel, can now be accessed from the home screen by swiping left. This I kinda liked. All of those extra widgets are now accessible without even having to log into your phone. Unfortunately, like the previous version of the iOS, the Widget Center, at least for my iPhone 5, wasn't very functional, didn't function properly. Sometimes a specific widget wouldn't load, or things would be laggy, or things just wouldn't show up. Information would not show up in the widgets themselves, so I found myself many times having to turn them off. After 3 to 4 days of further use, I found that some widgets actually do end up eventually working, but at first it did not work as well. Sometimes I occasionally find them not working, though it's very in a case-to-case basis. It's not consistent. Finishing up with the lock screen, you can now swipe left to access your camera instead of swiping up. No big deal, nothing really new there. A feature I actually got excited for in this update was the ability to actually delete the stock apps, the apps that you don't need, the apps that came with the OS. Bloatware, stuff you probably never used, like the app for Apple Watches and the app for tips. I was actually a little confused though on how we can delete some apps but we can't for others. Like for instance, the music app, we can delete that but we can't delete the health app? That just doesn't make any sense to me. Or the wallet app, for instance, doesn't make any sense. A cool feature that they added with iOS 10 was the Imessage Overhaul, where they reorganized how the keyboard handles chat add-ons and special features like taking pictures directly from the app, managing your keyboard plugins, in addition to being able to send animated sketches or captions over photos or blank canvases. Pretty cool feature if you ask me, as I can't wait to see this integrated into mainstream iMessage conversations. Other cool features included in iOS 10 was the fact that the OS actually takes 200 to 300 megabytes less storage space. This means more storage for the users. Oh, and there was also the revamp to how notifications function, which allows the users to individually manage each notification. And for the Notes app, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they also added the ability to share notes with others? I'm not exactly sure. One thing I didn't like about the notifications though, is that it's kind of inconsistent. I found myself many times trying to swipe to the left notifications in the notification drop-down menu, while at the same time trying to tap on notifications in the home screen. It's kind of confusing, kind of inconsistent. No big deal, but just little things, One really annoying thing about the OS is that sometimes it actually does restart randomly. I don't know why. I don't know why my device is doing this. I tried to replicate it and tried to record it as it's happening, but I can't seem to replicate the problem. I'm pretty sure they'll fix it in future iterations of the operating system. But as far as I can tell right now, this has happened to me, I think 3 or 4 times, of where I'd be using an app, I'd just close the app, and then the phone would randomly restart. I don't know. Last but not least, let's talk about the overall performance. Does it run better? Is it actually good? Is it actually bad? Is it kind of like the operating systems in the past? Let's find out. Of this initial patch, it was seemingly at first fine, but after using the OS for a couple of days, there are many instances where I found my device freezing up or producing massive amounts of stuttering while using certain apps such as Snapchat, when you're trying to take a picture or video, or device orientation based applications, like games or YouTube, stuff like that. Although such applications didn't run as well as others before iOS 10, I never had complete freezes where I would end up staring at my phone, waiting for a response for 5 to 10 seconds. And yes, I've seen benchmarks of people saying battery life and some application startup times are better, but many of them are stock apps, and battery life benchmarks showing 1 to 5 minute variances is only going to save you a fraction of what they're showing off over old iOS versions. And yes, I've seen the benchmarks of people claiming that it has better battery life and some application startup times are better, but many of them are stock apps, and the battery life benchmark showing 1 to 5 minute variances is only going to save you a fraction of what they show off over the old iOS versions, especially during real world testing where people use Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, play video games on the go, download stuff, taking pictures all the time. All of the normal uses you won't, no. You probably won't see any difference. I do say, once applications do actually get up and running, you do notice somewhat of a performance increase, but when you're trying to close apps, transition between apps, open app folders, you do notice small delays and micro stutters in the on-screen. Now don't get me wrong, I understand that new operating systems are bound to have bugs, and there's bound to be glitches and bugs, as well as updates to fix them. So in the end, is it worth the upgrade today? Well, that's kind of a hard question to answer, though I'm gonna say not exactly. Yes, if you're actually interested in the features like getting around 200 megabytes more out of your device. And yeah, that's relatively huge, especially for those who may own a 16 gigabyte model. In addition, you get the extra chat features, the enhanced keyboard, and a refresh to the iOS's theme. Above all of my complaints, I think it's bearable. Most of the glitches are bearable. I'm sticking with iOS 10 because I'm honestly just too lazy to go back, and I'm pretty sure Apple will fix all the major problems, though I doubt that the micro stutters will go away. I doubt delays will go away. Your performance times won't increase. So for people who haven't upgraded iOS 10 yet, my overall answer is no. If you want the smoothest performance as possible, I suggest staying on iOS 9 for the next couple of weeks. This will allow application developers and Apple to fix their This will allow application developers and Apple to work around and fix their glitches and bugs. Although I'm hopeful that Apple will optimize their new OS, based on my own experiences with Apple devices getting updated to a slow, stuttery, sluggish device, such as my old iPod Touch 2nd generation, which was cut off at iOS 4, or my iPhone 3GS, which was cut off at iOS 6, I'd be cautious and hold off, at least for now, until I've seen other iPhone 5 or 5C users show off better results online, If I see any more notable improvements to iOS 10 that actually make it completely worth it to change, I'll make an update video, and I'll probably applaud Apple for actually doing this to an outdated device. If you want to be prepared, oh god, I think the camera moved. If you want to be prepared for when that day happens, go ahead and hit that sub button and you'll get a notification, or you'll see my video in your sub box telling you if, my opinion, my new opinion of the iOS 10. Go ahead and smack that like button if you like the video and you want to see more. Go ahead and smack that like button if you actually kind of liked this format, if you think it's good, or give me a dislike if you thought the production quality was really bad. Go down in the comments and tell me about how you've been handling iOS 10, whether or not you plan to update, and if you actually have iOS 10 with the newer devices, give me some feedback. Tell me about it. Is it actually as good as they say it is? Is it actually as good as they say it is? Is it not bad? Also, give me feedback for how my first review was. I think it was fine, maybe. I haven't even seen the video yet because I'm still making it. Hello? Ugh.